Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reader's Intrigue, where authors are going to read the first chapter of their book so that we can be intrigued and maybe find a new book to read. Get comfy, get cozy. Let's listen.
Dan Lauer is a professional writer and sometime screenwriter whose work has appeared in the Ampersand Review, Ghost Parachute, a literary magazine, on the Drunken Odyssey with John King podcast, and at the There Will Be Words live reading events in Orlando, Florida. He writes, produces, and hosts various podcasts, which can be found and heard via wetworkmedia.com. He did not care for having to write this biography at all. Meridiem is an unreliable memoir of events that occurred in Los Angeles County between June and September 2009. From the bewildering cast of a state-run psychiatric hospital to the horrific exhibits of the Museum of the Morbid, Dan Lauer searches for comfort and solace from a severe depression-driven psychotic break from reality in all the wrong places. Despite the harsh realities of most of the situations and explicit descriptions of suicidal ideation, major depression, psychotic hallucinations, delusional thinking, and general despair, remember, there's no reason this can't be funny. Author's note and various disclosures. All names in this memoir other than my own have been altered for reasons that will become apparent relatively quickly. Composites of both characters and situations have been utilized for brevity, legal protection, and perhaps most importantly, because the way events unfolded in my malfunctioning gray matter at times bears little to no resemblance to the way it actually unfolded. I began writing the first haphazard notes and passages of the following story as it occurred in June of 2009. So all details are rendered as I understood them at the time. Whether or not that makes this a true story will be a question for the ages, and history may or may not treat it with kindness. It should be obvious where I completely fabricated scenarios simply for comedic effect. I have, for instance, never, ever had a protracted argument with my GPS system. Ever. I classify myself with no prompting or coercion as an extremely unreliable narrator, given my mental state at the time of these events. I assure you, however, the neoconservative conspiracy is alive and well, and they are currently breeding ape-human hybrid Ubermensch to institute a Kafkaesque coup d'etat in these United States. Beware, fellow travelers. The end is nigh. Auf Wiedersehen. My blood pressure was very, very low. I was either not alive or, perhaps worse, a zombie. And that seemed a hefty cliche to me, even in that environment, under those circumstances. They'd make a movie out of this one day, and someone better looking and more charismatic would play my part. Only it would be a movie, so I would be a zombie. But I'd be in love with a woman who shouldn't love me back, but did, even though I tried to eat her whenever she was near. 2 thumbs up for this charming little rom-zom-com. The nurse taking my blood pressure was a pretty blonde in her early 30s named Sharon, and she was personable, pleasant, and comforting. Under normal circumstances, I would have instinctively turned on the charm and flirted with her just to pass the time. Made her laugh. I can make them laugh. It's one of the very few things I'm truly great at, and comes to me more easily than it by all right should. But I was severely exhausted and finding it impossible to focus. Forget flirting, forget getting hard, forget fucking. My libido was hiding in a darkened corner somewhere, crying, still wet from a long shower that just wouldn't get hot enough. Hard as I tried to turn the knob to the left. If Helen of Troy herself was straddling me, breasts out, and gyrating on my groin, whispering sweet nothings into my ear close enough that I could feel the heat and moisture of her breath in my cheek and her tongue on my earlobe, I would shrug her off while attempting not to betray my cold exterior and display the panic I felt inside. Not right now, Helen. Luckily, the odds of that happening were almost unthinkably slim. Stranger things have occurred. Not much. Not yet. None of this can possibly be real. Everything is out of focus. Sharon asked the standard questions to attempt to get out in front of the situation as quickly as possible. Are you hearing voices? Are you seeing things? Are you delusional? No. No. I'm not sure. The phone next to Sharon's desk kept ringing as we talked. After ignoring it for a few moments, she answered and spoke in a hushed, hurried voice. I couldn't make out what she was saying, but could ascertain the same person kept calling over and over and over and didn't believe whatever Sharon was telling them. She looked frustrated and was trying but failing to hide it. After ending the hushed phone call, she turned back to me, then shifted her gaze back to my chart on the desk in front of her to find where we'd left off. You're not sure if you're delusional, she asked, lifting her head from the chart and cocking it at me in confusion. It was a really big move, jarring. I withdrew, both in the chair and figuratively. Suddenly the warmth was gone from her tone. Are unrealistic situations becoming apparent? Are you in fear for your safety? Are you paranoid? Do you feel like you're being followed? I considered all of that for a moment and shrugged. Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you, yes? Those things aren't entirely untrue, if that's what you're driving at. Okay, she scribbled again on my chart. No one would press me for information too intensely. If I looked confused, frustrated, or on the verge of tears and didn't appear to feel like elaborating, all I'd have to do is say, I don't know, twice. Then they'd stop asking. I began to tell everyone, I don't know, twice, no matter the question. Are you feeling suicidal, she asked, and I nodded. Just a nod, just a visual confirmation. Nothing more to it than that. Don't make me say it out loud anymore. Don't make me admit it to anyone else. Okay, Sharon smiled, reached out with a long finger tipped with red nail polish, touched me slightly on the knee, and gave me one of the most sympathetic looks I'd ever received. Does she treat all of the doomed this way? Or am I especially bad off? Or was she expecting me? Is this all part of it? Was this planned too? Sharon left for a moment to find my position in the emergency room. The ER proper and the psychiatric ER were two different facilities. The ER doctor assigned to me on intake had to sign me over to the psychiatric ward after making a cursory diagnosis, but Sharon couldn't leave me alone, so she asked another nurse to keep an eye on me while she was gone. The other nurse was an obese black woman in ill-fitting scrubs, and keep an eye on me is exactly what she did. All she did. She just stared blankly and didn't utter a single word, breathing heavily through her mouth all the time, a slight wheeze on every exhale. I didn't even try to smile as we maintained painfully awkward eye contact. I was only with her for 3 or 4 minutes before Sharon returned. I smiled up at her, my new best friend. If I could have bared the thought of human contact, I would have tried to give her a hug. But I recoiled when she took my pulse. A hug wouldn't have been worth the effort and would have ended in disaster. Post Meridiem is available for purchase as an ebook from Amazon and Apple Books. It is also currently available as a free audiobook podcast on the podcast client of your choice. You may read or listen by visiting linktree.com/Dan Lauer. For additional information, you may also visit wetworkmedia.com/post-Meridiem.
Thank you again to the amazing author that read us a story, and be sure to check out all the other amazing shows on RB Media. Till next time, bye!